Herzlich willkommen, liebe Zuschauer, zu diesem Video, wo ich mir auch einen Gast eingeladen habe. Es geht um den Krieg im Iran, also um den Krieg zwischen Israel und Iran. Und da habe ich mir eine Expertin dazugeholt, die ich in Berlin mal kennengelernt habe. Rebecca Barsev ist eine politische Analystin. Sie hat auch einen YouTube-Kanal, den ich auch in der Videobeschreibung verlinken werde. Ihre Videos sind auf Englisch, ja, könnt ihr sehr, sehr gerne abonnieren. Und ich werde dir einige Fragen über den Krieg stellen. Sie lebt und arbeitet auch in Tel Aviv und kann quasi aus erster Hand berichten. Daher freue ich mich sehr. Rebecca, welcome and thank you for taking the
Thank
time.
you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my first question will be, is Israel really only concerned with its nuclear program, or is it more concerned with overthrowing the whole regime in Iran?
Right. So there are two ways that the Iranians could have potentially destroyed Israel, overwhelmed Israel. Israel, it's a tiny country, so one nuke would finish it off, and enough ballistic missiles would do that as well. So they took two routes. They were really developing their ballistic missile industry fast. They were really manufacturing a lot of ballistic missiles, so Israel wanted to help that. And of course, the number one thing is the nukes. So one nuke would decimate Israel. So that's something Israel cannot afford that the Iranians would have. And they would use it because they ruined and killed so many people already. They had ruined countries all over. And this is why Israel also hopes that there would be a regime change, because Iran had been financing terror attacks and terrorism all over the world. And of course, their proxies. But I also want to emphasize that one of the things that they had done is to kill millions of people that are not talked about by, for example, supporting the Houthis and Hezbollah and the Assad regime. And I don't know if you guys remember, but the Assad regime had killed at least 500,000, and that was Iran's sponsorship and support behind everything that has happened. And with the Yemenites, there are millions who are now starving children. I think 2 million children that are starving in Yemen. And that is also a result of civil war that the Iranians perpetuated by contacting the Houthis and financing them. And Lebanon, they ruined Lebanon, they ruined Syria, they ruined Yemen, they ruined countries, they ruined Iraq. Iran is one of the reasons that Iran could have not rebuilt itself after the Americans brought down Saddam Hussein, is because that Iranians who basically annexed Iraq to themselves and financed different militias in Iraq, Shiite militias, to do their bidding. So they had been a very, very an unstabilizing force. And the other thing is that the regime change is important because the infrastructure in Iran is deteriorating fast. And if they had reached to the point where they had nukes, they would have. Right now, like, Iran is not, like, especially the periphery. It's like the periphery is suffering, but like, it's bearable. But the infrastructure is really deteriorating fast, and they are facing drought and power shortages, and the combination of that meant that they were heading towards being North Korea, a huge North Korea in the middle of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And that would have been a very scary outcome. So yeah, it needs to be stopped. And for Iran to survive and to manage to fix itself up, it has to have people who are competent and not the regime that is so blinded by their ideology that they don't care and about the mundane things like taking care of the roads. And like, there are plenty of car crashes in Iran, drought, like I said before. Like, they don't care about those things. And it accumulates. It accumulates.
Your last video is about the public opinion in Israel. What is the Israeli population's attitude toward the war with Iran now?
very positive. It's been something that we've been preparing for decades now.
And even the critics of Netanyahu, they support the war.
Oh wow! When the war started, all the critics were like, "Okay, hats off."
Wow!
And it's only the the most maybe biggest haters that managed to still critique him. But the reality is that this is something that was so important that even the most, people who are against the government and against Netanyahu and hate Netanyahu were like, you know what?
Interesting.
We cannot say anything. It's like it's.
We don't hear anything about that in Germany.
About what?
About the support of Israel population for the war.
Oh, well, but you can always find somebody who doesn't, I guess.
Yeah,
so
sure.
If you want to create a false image, then you can. But the truth is that it's like the population is. I even want to say happy. Like we were waiting for the liberation of the Iranian people for a long time. Yeah. We even have, in our myth, we're like, okay, we still have our debt to pay off with the Cyrus Declaration when the Jews were allowed to return to Jerusalem. It was 2,500 years ago, and we've been saying for years, okay, when are we going to give it back? Like, when are we going to be the ones that liberate the Iranians? So it's like we're hopeful. We really want to see a change in the Middle East.
Yeah, there is this hope for a uprising in Iran, but for now, unfortunately, there's no sign of that at the moment. Do you think that it will change?
So from what I know, first of all, there is a way more up. I think the Kurdish areas had already started fighting back. The internet is out, so there is an outage for the internet. And I think those who are in the center, they can get access, but I think those in periphery have even less access. So I think Baluchistan had already declared their own independence.
There are Sunni Muslims there in Baluchistan.
Yeah. Also, the Baluchistan on the Pakistani side also declared independence when the Pakistan-India operation happened, war happened. Like several weeks ago, they also declared on their part their independence, that they don't want to be part of Pakistan. And to be honest, there is a silent genocide there, as in silent because nobody talks about it. Nobody goes to Baluchistan and checks what's happening, but it's brutal there. And the Iranians, they did the same thing on their side, and both the Pakistanis and the Iranians felt very free to basically on both sides to push in the Baluchis and torture them. Anyway, so it's very hard to understand what's going on that area and if it's the right thing to do even. But I feel like if Iran would be an attractive, strong country, they would probably win their minorities back, right? It needs to be we can see it a lot in Syria. A lot of the minorities in Syria, they want to be part of Syria, but only if Syria is a good country to live in, if they respect the minorities, if they respect other, it's mutual. So I believe that I know a lot of Iranians are afraid of the country falling apart, but I feel like if the country is strong, then you would get them back, even if it's temporarily unclear what is happening with the Baluchis and the Kurds, for example. And when it comes to inside of Iran, I heard that they're shocked right now, mostly. They're in state of shock. And so that combination.
I think a lot of people are shocked how weak the government is. I mean, it seems like they lost control.
I think, yes, but there is still the Basij and different elements, and people are still afraid. So it's going to take a moment. People are shocked. And also it's hard to understand what's going on if I don't know how much of news we're even getting from there for what's really happening. So but I don't think it's reversible anymore, honestly speaking, especially even on the technical side, because there aren't a lot, but there are some infrastructures that were damaged. You know, you'd have to like figure out how to fix things and arrange yourself better. And yeah, so I think there are going to be changes either way. But it is important for the Iranian people to step up and take responsibility and actually try to involve themselves and take leadership positions wherever they can. I said, like on my Twitter, just even if it means just, you know, taking leadership position for just managing your building, that would already help. So that when things need to be restructured, there would be people who would know how to proliferate the restructuring all over.
And what do you think? Will it develop into a conventional war, or will it remain at this level with airstrikes and?
So what do you mean by conventional war?
I mean, like something like we see in Gaza or something, something like that.
No. Well,
I mean, it's not it's not realistic
it's
that Israel will
it's not realistic.
invade Iran, but I don't know. Maybe they will try something.
So there is a way to do that. You only have if you take over a city. So I think a lot of time people think of in countries, but the reality is that you have to think in cities, not in countries. You take over you take over cities, and you are ruling a certain area already. So it might be possible that by taking over Tehran, just doing that, you could already, you know, be at the top of the pyramid and then have the rest of it change.
And control it. Yeah.
And control it, yeah. But, you know, that is not something that I think Israel would do without the support or want of the Iranian people. And the only reason Israelis might do that is, first of all, because of the weaponry, right? So the average Iranian civilian doesn't have a way to fight the Iranian secret police and things like that because they don't have weapons. And the other reason would be just for it to not go into a civil war mode, just, you know, to organize things and help with restructuring. But without the Iranian people's support, I don't think Israel would even try to do anything like that. And the Israelis wouldn't have a motivation to do that, right? So if they don't see anything from the Iranian side, the Israelis would be like, okay, if they want to kill each other in a civil war, let them do that, you know. But because, you know, one of the things that they're trying to it's a smart game that the Iranian regime is doing, is they're trying to convince the Israelis that the Iranians hate Israel, and even if they hate the regime, they hate Israel more. So it's and then the Israelis would be like, okay, if they hate us so much, F them, right? Like they can have their country ruined.
That means Israel is only interested to eliminate the threat for Israel, nothing else.
Exactly, yeah. But if the Israelis would see that the Iranians want real change, that I think Israelis would be happy to help to get that point.
Yeah.
Like further, you know.
And you're living in Tel Aviv. Do you feel safe now in Tel Aviv?
Yeah, also we were just told that we can go back to our like work and stuff, so we were like in a hardcore corona mode kind of. But yeah, now people can go to work if they have like some shelters around work. So that's until now it was like, okay, only essential workers could go to work, but now it's they just said that it's okay for everyone to go back to work as of in an hour and a half. People can go back to work, which is evening time, so I don't know who would, but yeah.
Mhm. And what do you think? I mean, we have now multiple fronts. Yeah, we have Gaza and Syria, now Iran. Can Israel fight these wars on these multiple fronts simultaneously in the long run? What do you think?
Well, we're kind of after, actually. It's mostly like we already fought all the wars. We already fought Hezbollah. We already like the ring of fire.
They already finished
Iran,
or not?
I mean, they're kind of all finished. They're all kind of like, you know, like a fish on the floor doing blah, 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 like flapping.
Yeah.
So they're like, Israel is just looking at a lot like flapping.
Yeah.
Like, it was a nice plan to try to annihilate us, huh? Good idea. Good idea.
Yeah. I mean, there is no rockets or not so many from Lebanon or from Gaza Strip. I mean, it stopped or not? The attacks, the rocket attacks.
Well, there are still drones coming from the north, and some like very unimpressive like rockets that Hamas is trying to fire from time to time, which is like, damn, you just want to get like crushed to complete dust, you know. It's like they have a moment, they're like, oh, let's fire something. Like, just pretend to be dead in front of a bear, you know.
Rebecca, I was a little bit surprised that ballistic missiles hit the middle of Tel Aviv. Was the Israeli missile defense system overestimated?
So I think we expected way more. So I'm going to say that the Netanyahu speeches in Hebrew are way more honest and brutal than the English ones. And when the operation started, he faced the people, the country, and actually said that, listen, it's going to be brutal and there are going to be hits. Then civilians will be hurt. Like he said, I promise you that. And the estimation, actually, when they approved the operation, was that there are going to be hundreds to thousands of Israeli that would be basically hit by ballistic missiles and perish. And the reality is that the fact that we're in the dozens is it's a miracle. So it's something that we were expecting, and this is something that we were told in advance of. So yeah, it's unfortunately it's not. It's very hard to get 100%.
Yeah, sure. Rebecca, thank you very much for taking your time, and take care.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everybody.